thanks everyone for coming out. The time is now 6:03 p.m. Call to order this regular scheduled meeting of the Oconee County Council, dates March 4th, 2025. I will begin with a moment of silence. Mr. Root, would you pray for us?
Yes, pray with me if you'd like to. Well, dearest Father, thank you again for the community turnout tonight, that we have an opportunity to gather together from many and varied voices, that council will be able to hear different opinions. I'm just grateful for that. They need that, and we all need it. We are your children, thankful for that, thankful for the gift of life and the very air that we breathe this evening. None of it's guaranteed. It's a gift, and we're thankful. We request your gifts. We request a gift of wisdom and insight for council this evening and for this meeting to flow smoothly. And in Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Root. Mr. Elliott, would you lead us in pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Root, County Attorney, comments?
I did, just one briefly, Mr. Chairman, just to piggyback on what Amanda was saying. Public comments, there's the time limitation, but that's what we've had every meeting, I think, for the bulk of you all who have been coming out. We've just had the public comments, which are widespread, generally county business. When a transition, when the ordinance comes up, the DEI ordinance, as it's been referred to a public hearing, it's similar for council. They can't do a back and forth with you all, so they won't be answering questions. It's just the rules of procedure to keep argumentation from happening and for everyone to get heard. That's the main purpose of a public hearing, so everyone has an opportunity to be heard. It's a due process requirement, but it's not to be heard on the topic. And so while there's no time limit that's established, if the testimony, so to speak, becomes overly cumulative or duplicative, or is not on topic, or is running too long so that all the signed up speakers don't have a chance to speak, council can make a motion to limit the time, put a time limit down. That's reasonable. We'll just see how it flows for that. But I just wanted to underscore that public hearing is just a little bit different, staying on topic. It's a little bit, obviously you don't have the same time constraints, but just something to be aware of as we move on. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Root. Ms. Amanda Brock, County Administrator, comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no comments this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Brock. We move on to the consent agenda. So any items anyone would like to remove from the consent agenda? I hear none. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second. Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
That is 5-0.
I now have proclamation. Proclamation 2025-02. A proclamation recognizing Deputy Chief Scott Smith, the South Carolina Emergency Management Association's 2024 Emergency Management Professional of the Year. Whereas Scott Smith began working at Oconee County on June 30th, 2014. And whereas since then, Deputy Chief Smith has served as a Firefighter 1 and 2, Assistant Chief, Training Officer, Radiological Emergency Operations Planner, and currently Deputy Chief of Emergency Services. Whereas Deputy Chief Smith has also served in the United States Air Force and Air National Guard. And whereas utilizing 30 years of fire and emergency services expertise, Deputy Chief Smith coordinates with local, state, and federal agencies for emergency situations and is responsible for equipment management, grants, planning, and conducting training exercises. And whereas Deputy Chief Smith works diligently to ensure safe operations and oversees Oconee County's emergency services special operations teams, including hazmat, dive, and special rescue. And whereas Deputy Chief Smith provides peer support for emergency services personnel as well as volunteer fire and rescue squads, and leads the mental health critical incident stress management program. And whereas Deputy Chief Smith's commitment to public service goes above and beyond the call of duty in any situation. Whereas Deputy Chief Smith was named the South Carolina Emergency Management Association's 2024 Emergency Management Professional of the Year. Now therefore, we, the Oconee County Council, do hereby recognize and express our sincere gratitude for Deputy Chief Smith's dedication to protect the health and safety of the citizens of Oconee County, and congratulate him on earning the 2024 Emergency Management Professional of the Year. Have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
So Smitty always listens to really loud, horrible music. Want me to get you on the camera? Take off. And I wish I'd have played it for him, but I didn't want to scare y'all. I mean, his music's awful. There might be no film.
Congratulations. Thanks, Lisa. I'm good.
Everybody say death metal.
You want the double horn?
Awesome. Congratulations, my friend. That's excellent. Go ahead.
Okay, we're gonna move to public comment session. Okay, so, again, we had quite a few people sign up. I wanna make a motion to say that we suspend the overall time limit, and we change the time limit per person to 4 minutes per person. We give everyone who signed up a chance to speak.
Make a motion. I'll second that.
And second, any other discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so now we move to public comment session. As Mr. Root stated, it's not an out and back, so we're here to listen and hear y'all's concerns. I ask that you please keep it on topic of county business. We'll have 4 minutes, so I'll set my timer. When we get to the 3-minute mark, I hold up a yellow warning sign, and at the final time, I hold up a red stop sign.
Harry Smith.
Mr. Chairman, Council, Ms. Brock, Mr. Root, thank you for allowing me to speak. For the record, I am Perry Smith. I am the president and proud member of the Oconee County Conservatives, also known as the OCC. First, I want to thank you and congratulate you. I want to thank you for voting the will of the people. That's 75% of the people in Oconee County. And I want to congratulate you for being brave in the face of the 25% that can't take the change that America wants in this county. Illegal immigration is a complex and contentious issue facing many nations, particularly those with strong economies and opportunities for prosperity, such as the United States. While the reasons behind immigration, whether economic, political, or social, are often understandable, illegal immigration can have severe negative consequences both for the immigrants themselves and our country. Today, we will explore why illegal immigration is wrong, focusing on the legal, economic, and social impacts. One of the primary reasons illegal immigration is wrong is that it violates the laws of our country. Every nation has its own immigration policies in place to manage how people enter and stay within its borders. These laws are crafted to ensure that immigration is orderly, transparent, and safe for all individuals involved. When people cross the borders without following legal procedures, they undermine the rule of law, which is fundamental to a fair and just society. If individuals are allowed to bypass laws and enter our country illegally, it sets a dangerous precedent, encouraging others to do the same and weakening the integrity of our legal system. Furthermore, illegal immigration often means that immigrants are living in the shadows without proper documentation, making them vulnerable to exploitation. Without legal status, they have limited access to basic rights and protections such as health care, legal work, and education, which puts them at a disadvantage and can lead to serious social inequalities. Illegal immigration also has significant economic implications for our country. Many argue that illegal immigrants fill essential jobs, especially in industries like agriculture, construction, and service sectors. However, these jobs are often low-paying and provide minimal benefits, which means that the economic contribution of illegal immigration does not always outweigh the cost to society. For example, illegal immigrants frequently rely on public services such as education, health care, and social welfare without contributing fully to the tax system. This creates a financial burden for citizens as they are essentially subsidizing the cost associated with illegal immigration. The presence of undocumented workers also lead to wage suppression in certain industries, as employers may take advantage of the lower labor cost, which can affect the livelihoods of illegal residents seeking similar jobs. Moreover, illegal immigration can place a strain on the resources of local governments, particularly in the areas with high numbers of undocumented individuals. Schools and hospitals often face overcrowding, and public services can become overwhelmed, distracting them from the quality of services available to legal residents. I support the idea of the county working with ICE across the state to help remove illegal immigrants once they have been arrested for breaking the law one more time. Again, illegal still remains illegal in this country.
Kirk Trussell.
County Council, I'd like to thank you for my opportunity to speak, to project my First Amendment right to do so. I'd just like to piggyback on some of the things that he said, Perry did, about illegal immigration 287 program G is going to put enormous cost on the taxpayers of this country. Now, I heard during the second reading of this, or last month, what it cost the state from the University of North Carolina, $4 million to deport people. That is a drop in the bucket. I got some stats from fairus.org. It's pull it up here. FAIR's mission is to examine immigration trends and effects, to educate the American people on the impacts of high sustained volume of immigration. Here's the key highlights of what they found. At the start of 2023, the cost of illegal immigration in the United States, federal, state, local levels, was at least $150 billion. Not million, billion. That's an enormous figure. 2017, the estimate net cost of illegal immigration was approximately $116 billion. Just 5 years later, the cost to the American has increased by $35 billion. And it's going north of that this year. Illegal immigration costs each American taxpayer $1,156 per year, $957 factoring in the taxes paid by illegal aliens. each illegal alien, either born U.S. child or illegal aliens that come over through not a proper port of entry and not a port of the proper way, costs annually $8,760. Evidence shows that the payments of illegals that cover around 1/6 of the cost. There's like $30 billion they put into it. It cost $180 billion, so they come up with a net of $150 billion. Our country's gonna go bankrupt. No other nation on earth has open borders where you can just walk across, get free benefits on the backs of the taxpayers who work and pay taxes in that country. We're all for safety. I have empathy for people who are poor. No matter what nationality or skin color you are, your plight is hard. I understand, life is hard. But you have no right to break U.S. law. Once you do that, there's no way to look at it, you're a criminal. And laws have to be upheld and sustained in this country if we don't want chaos. There's been a lot of talk about Bible. You're not a Christian. I happen to be a Christian, proud of it. But you don't have sympathy for these people that come across and they say, where's your heart at? Well, let me remind you, Revelations 21, heaven has walls and it has a gate, a proper port of entry. John 3:3, Jesus spoke to Nicodemus. What did he say? You must be born again. There's a vetting process. So even in heaven, in God's way, has to be done with order. Thank you for your time.
Sir,
Zach R.
Thank you for having me here. I'm Jack Harvey. I live at 510 Hess Highway, and I got a problem. We built us a pond 28 years ago, went by the rules, and the agricultural department done the legal work on it, and got me a permit. And we bought this drainage system and hired somebody to build a pond. But there are a subdivision up there above us, Jefferson Place, and they've been running water on us for years. And I've talked to DHEC, talked to Amanda, and I went to planning, and we hadn't got anything to show for it. I even talked to the senator, and he said that he would help. And when he went back to Columbia, and a few days later, a lady called my wife. I can't talk on the telephone. I got a cell phone with a hearing aid, and said that the subdivision had never been permitted, whatever that means. And they would look into it after Christmas. And anyway, to make it short, my daughter, she works for the Girl Scouts, and she ran across the senator. And he asked about, was the problem been solved? She said, our pond has been muddy for a month, and every time it rains, it gets muddy. And so, in the same day, the girl from the office up there, legislature office, called my wife and said, the builder, had complied with all the, what do you call them, silt fences and stuff. And they was gonna let it go, and they would not do anything. All I asked for was get us, what do you call them? All right. A flood, a control, water, a pond, and it catches it before it runs across my place and runs my pond. And I've tried everything in the world to do it, to get it, but no result. And so, the girl from DHEC told us that the only way that you get anything, you'll have to do it the legal way, in court. And, that burns me up right there. So, thank you for the time, and I'll talk to you later.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey.
Linnell Heck.
Good evening, my name is Linnell Heck. I appreciate your time this evening to address the council. I'm going to speak a little bit to the opposition that we're facing, that y'all are facing about partnering with outside law enforcement to enforce immigration policies. I know the council and Chief Boland have already assured county residents that there are not going to be any general raids, no raiding of schools, or like the fear mongering we've heard, raiding of apartment complexes and that kind of thing. That is not happening. It's not going to be a case of gotchas. This is for when someone is arrested for committing a crime, or if someone is a collateral arrest, if they're with an individual committing a crime. If citizenship cannot be verified, they will be detained. And I'm personally grateful for the detainment of anyone, citizenship or not, that is being detained. I'm not aware of any generic raids happening in Oconee County. I feel sure that that would be front and center in the news if it were. But again, we still have people fear-mongering, saying that people are afraid to go to the grocery store and going hungry and that kind of thing. I can't imagine that that's happening, and if it is, then step up and help them, reassure them. But we've primarily heard from individuals opposed to closing our borders and opposed to cooperating with outside law enforcement. I previously shared with the council that my family has been personally impacted by the fentanyl crisis that is due in large part to unsecured borders. Our family and many others will never recover from this loss. The argument that closed borders or cooperating with law enforcement on immigration policies is not compassionate, is that it's not compassionate or humane could not be farther from the truth. In contrast, I believe that enforcing our immigration laws is the most compassionate way to handle immigration. Immediate citizenship is dangerous. Registered or documented people are protected people. Over 75% of women and children crossing our borders have been sexually assaulted. And I shared this stat with y'all last time I spoke. Over 300,000 children are still missing under the previous administration. If that does not keep people up at night, it keeps me up at night, then it should. Migrants are working under unsafe and inhumane conditions without any protections. They're afraid to complain because they're not here legally, so they have no recourse. Cartels made over $30 million bringing in drugs through the border and exploiting immigrants. Do they care about the people that they're using? Absolutely not. And at what cost do open borders cost our nation and immigrants themselves? And I had some statistics as well. I think Mr. Trussell gave some numbers that are very staggering in my opinion. But for every illegal immigrant living the American dream, there are hundreds, if not thousands, being exploited and living in terrible living conditions. The argument that immigrants are paying taxes, it's offset by how much it is costing. Our Social Security is already predicted to run out. Hospitals, schools, law enforcement. Our veterans are not cared for. DSS is stretched. Just to name a few, they are stretched beyond means. the loudest voices and sometimes the most intimidating, and even if it's we've witnessed, some of the most disrespectful voices do not necessarily translate to the right voices. I keep hearing the same people repeating that the council does not represent or vote the way the majority of the people have spoken at these meetings, and that's not an accurate statement. The majority of Oconee County residents voted for you to do exactly what you are trying to do. We had one of the highest voting participation rates in the
Thank you, Ms. Heck.
state. Thank y'all for doing what's hard to do.
Maria Green.
Hi, I'm Maria Green, and I just wanted to talk about DEI real quick. So basically, we all have implicit bias. Implicit biases or unconscious biases are attitudes or association stereotypes that affect our understandings, our actions, and decisions in an unconscious manner. Implicit biases are dangerous because they seep in without us knowing, forming by who we surround ourselves with, who we are, how we are raised, the media that we consume, and so on. You kind of get the point. But these biases grow and fester when you live in an echo chamber where everyone you know and associate with think the exact same way you do, and there's zero diversity in thought, lifestyles, and cultures, and so on. These implicit biases start to then manifest into something much worse: hatred. The hatred of others and the fear of others who don't look like us or think like us. Diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives and trainings were developed to help combat these biases from spreading and to challenge our own perceptions of others. It is our responsibility and our duty to acknowledge that we have implicit biases and to change them. I know it's hard for some people to think that they have these, but you do. We must unlearn these taught behaviors, and we must be willing to learn and grow from others outside of our own echo chamber. DEI's goal is to help ensure that the more highly qualified minorities are not overlooked for the less qualified white men. These implicit biases, or explicit biases in some of these cases, are here that I'm going to give some examples on, so bear with me because I have some stuff printed out. We have some good examples based on who you guys are appointing on council's chairs and the available seats and board positions and commission seats that are available. So one of them that I have, and this is a short list because I want to make sure other people have time to speak. One is someone who has been on our planning commission for a while, and that is Mr. David Nix. I have a screen grab that I printed out, and it's basically in one of his Facebook posts. He talks about how his free white ancestor sharecroppers had it worse than slaves because they were less appreciated. So if that doesn't show bias, I don't know what does. We also have Tony Adams, who is on our Parks and Recreation Department. And he posted a thing on Facebook, which is now deleted, but I still have it. It says, "Make draft shows great again," showing a body being dragged behind a horse. If that is not disgusting, biased, bigoted behavior, I don't know what is. We also have you, Chairman, Councilman Durham. You posted on your Facebook page a while ago. Would you rather drive Ford's Pride truck or walk everywhere for a month? That shows disdain for LGBTQ people. You also have shown disdain for Hispanics in our community. I have a bunch of other ones. Unfortunately, my ink ran out of my printer, but I have one from Perry Smith, a beautiful one showing you have your point of view and you have mine with a nice little gun. I know you're laughing, and I have a gift for you later. Basically, and also we have people appointed to the board like Vicki Smith, Kim Jackson appointed to the library board, who are opposed to any representation of LGBTQ people in books. I have a book that I brought and I left it at my seat, but it was Stella Brings the Family. Long story short, Durham, in your newest newsletter, you said and also on your website, you claim that DEI initiatives promote divisive ideology and that you are trying to promote and create a system that prioritizes fairness, merit, and accountability, and free from political agendas.
Thank you, Ms. Green.
That's 4 minutes already? Damn. Okay. Well, anyways.
Good evening. My name is Buzz Williams. I'm an Oconee County resident, and I voted in the Long Creek precinct in District 4. I attended the last council meeting and the second reading of proposed ordinances to bar DEI programs and empower local law enforcement to assist the federal government in mass deportation. These ordinances have been very divisive, and I sincerely hoped we might find some common ground. I did not speak because I did not know the issues very well. What I learned at the previous meeting and since compels me to speak to you on these proposed ordinances tonight. This is what I have learned. No money is currently allocated for diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in Oconee County. The ordinance against these programs seems to be a politically motivated sideshow. There is agreement that immigrants with criminal records, including murder, rapists, and drug dealers, should be deported. DEI programs do not require quotas. DEI programs are based on merit while ensuring protection for minorities from discrimination. Council has demonstrated a complete and total lack of empathy for those who would be harmed by mass deportation, including children separated from parents, immigrants seeking safe harbor from political persecution who face retribution and even death. Oconee County will foot the bill for this assisting ICE and locating illegal immigrants and their incarceration. When all these things were pointed out to council, nonetheless, the second reading of the said ordinance passed unanimously with no discussion. I conclude, as many others have, that council has gone too far in rubber stamping a politically motivated agenda. When council passes an ordinance that blindly follows the leadership of a convicted felon when we are one Supreme Court ruling away from a constitutional crisis, who has alienated the world at large and abandoned our allies, who disrespects women, who mocks the disabled, and who refers to all immigrants as animals, who would sell our children's birthright to a healthy, clean environment to make a buck. You've gone too far. So tonight, you will again undoubtedly unanimously pass ordinances on final reading. And for that reason, I will no longer reach out to you to find common ground. There's no time for it. It's time to resist. You have brought shame on our county, and for that reason, I promise you tonight that I will do everything in my power to see that you never hold office in Oconee County again. Mark these words, the tide is rising. It is time to fight tyranny with the democracy that we have left. See you at the polls.
Hello, my name is Tracy Chappell. I'm a mother and a grandmother and a retired psychology professor. I live in Long Creek. My family has a very old, deep history. I was born and raised in the South. I've spent my whole life in the South. My great-grandfather on my mother's side was an enrolled member of the Cherokee Nation. The rest of the family were Irish, Scotch-Irish immigrants. My grandfather on my father's side of the family had beautiful brown skin. Many of my family members were kidnapped from Western Africa and sent to this country in chains throughout the 17 and 1800s. The rest of that side of my family were British and Western European immigrants. I tell you my story, well, there's more to it too, of course. Throughout all sides, all generations, there were brave, strong, beautiful women. And I say my family story not because I think it's unique, because I think it's who we are. I think Americans are diverse. Yes. Americans are immigrants. Yes. And that is where we get our strength. We learn from each other. The Trail of Tears was legal. Slavery was legal in this country for 500 years, over 400 years. It only took Hitler 53 days to destroy a German democracy, become a dictator, and make the Holocaust legal. Donald Trump says his rioters attacking the Capitol Police and trying to hang the Vice President of the United States was legal. He claims that his boss, Vladimir Putin, attacking a sovereign country of Ukraine, murdering tens of thousands of people, kidnapping over 20,000 children, bombing hospitals, was genius and legal. So clearly, what is legal and what is evil is not mutually exclusive. So how do we make up our minds? How do we know what to do? Most of us have an internal guidance system. It's a compass that tells us right, wrong, good, bad, helping, hurting. Most of us have that, and we need to look at that. That's where we need to find our answers. People that are afraid of diversity, equity, and inclusion fear their own ineptness. And they believe that if there was a level playing field, they would not automatically and easily rise to the top. And they're probably right. We're a country of immigrants. Attacking immigrants, taking apart their families, randomly incarcerating them, sending them to God knows where. I don't know if that's legal, but I sure as hell know it's evil.
Yes.
We need to do better. White people need to do better.
Yes.
Especially white men. Because you still hold the levels of power. And more power means you can do more good, but you can also do more evil.
Yes.
How would you feel if ICE was coming for your family? Empathy and compassion is not a weakness. Ask Jesus. He was really big on that point.
Yes.
We need to do better. You need to do better. Thank you.
Rod Stite.
Can y'all please hold the clapping so we can move the meeting effectively and people can hear their names called? It's an orderly meeting this week.
County Council, Administrator Brock, Larry Root. My name is Rod Stipe. I live in Long Creek area of Oconee County. I first arrived here in the late summer of 1976 to work as a raft guide for Wildwater Limited. Guiding on the waters of the Chattooga River provided me with important life lessons, skills, and a great group of lifelong friends. I was fortunate enough to be able to retire here with my wife in this little corner of heaven in 2019. While building our new home in 2019 through 2020, I was amazed at Oconee's vibrant, hardworking Hispanic community. When the house was complete, I realized that Hispanic work crews were involved in every stage of the building process, from the foundation to the roof. We're all aware of the contribution of immigrants in the building of our great nation. I'm proud to exclaim that immigrant craftsmen also built my house. Before the February 4th Oconee County Council meeting, a friend alerted me to a post on County Council web pages that expressed disdain toward the Hispanic community of Mill Hill and Walhalla, saying, hopefully, Trump will keep us from looking like a Mexican city. And if I could build a wall around Oconee and keep it exactly like it is, I would. And finally, if you're here illegally, then by definition you are a criminal. During the February 4th meeting, I was out in the hall with the standing room only group and spoke with two construction contractors about how extremely upset their Hispanic work crews were about these posts. We also briefly discussed in general how social media was all too often a detriment to the civil discourse in our nation, in our state, and definitely in our country. It's got to where it often just seems like this whole country wants bad things for others more than they want good things from themselves. For heaven's sakes, gentlemen, stop the gaslighting and cyberbullying of the members of our Hispanic community. These people are hard-working roofers, carpenters, masons, educators, doctors, nurses, landscapers, caregivers, law enforcement officers, and business owners who pay state and federal and local taxes like us all. Do please refrain from denigrating the good people of Oconee, and please strive to use social media to highlight positive accomplishments in our county, such as possibly establishing a task force with the South Carolina Department of Transportation to address our terrible pothole problem here in the county. And this could hopefully prevent Oconee County from becoming Pothole County, South Carolina. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Andy Smith. Good evening. You know, one of the complaints about the DEI is that it's divisive. You see these unified, diverse folks, inclusive folks here. You know, I understand the divisiveness because you're choosing between your earthly leader and the good Lord. You're divided inside on this. That's where the division is. I know you're going to pass it because your earthly leader wants you to. So you say you'll choose candidates for hire or contractors based solely on skill, knowledge, and experience. Nothing else. So repeat after me. I, Matthew Durham, promise that I will vote for the trans candidate or contractor if they are the most skilled, knowledgeable, and experienced candidate or contractor. I'd really like to know if you would do that. If you would be honest about what you're proposing. To echo the comment before about the potholes, we got a name for them. We call them Durhams.
Hi, good evening. My name is Karen Hansen, and today we'll be talking about, we're going to be educating the community, and along with that is you guys a little bit more in the immigration part of it. The impact of immigration enforcement on children and community. A significant body of research highlights the adversity effect of immigrant-related parental arrest and deportation on children and communities. One, behavior change. In a 2010 study, immigration-related parental arrest, where at home or worksite, found that the majority of the children experience at least 4 adversary behavior changes in the 6 months following a raid or an arrest. Compared to the previous 6 months, children reported an increased crying and fear, alert eating and sleeping habits, and heightened anxiety. The children were more likely to become withdrawn, clinging, angry, or aggressive. 2, mental issues. A 2023 study revealed that the detention or deportation of a family member was associated with significant high rate of suicidal thoughts, alcohol use, and aggression among Latino adolescents in Atlanta, Georgia. 3. PTSD symptoms. Research conducted in 2023 examined the impact of work sites raids on children, family, and communities in Ohio, Texas, and Mississippi. The finding indicates that many children, workers, detained in the raids exhibit signs of post-traumatic disorder, PTSD, including difficulty sleeping, frequency crying, and heightened fear. Education outcome. Children residing in a community that partners with ICE or are focused of ICE raids often experience negative education outcome. Community where local law enforcement agency enter into 287G agreement witness a substantial display of Hispanic students as families choose to leave or avoid moving into those areas. A Stanford University study analyzed public school enrollment impact results from 287G agreement found that Hispanic students' enrollment decreased by nearly 10% within the 2 years as such partnership. School attendance. A large-scale raid by ICE affected school attendance, particularly for those students with friends or family members impacted by these actions, following a mass raid in eastern Tennessee in April 2018. More than 500 students were absent from school the following day. Concerns from educators. Educator surveys in 2023 and 2024 report several concerns related to immigration enforcement, including increase in students' absences, decline in academic performance, and reducing the parents' involvement. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Priscilla Cromer.
Good afternoon. I will be speaking on the impact of immigration enforcement of child health and development. Immigration enforcement and the threat it poses can have negative effect on a child's long-term health and development. A child risks for experiencing mental health problems such as depression, anxiety, and severe psychological distress increases dramatically following the detention and or deportation of a parent. Since late 2016, doctors and service providers have reported an increase in children's stress and anxiety related behavioral changes, including symptoms of toxic stress due to the fear of a family separation caused by deportation. Just think about this. Think of your grandkid. Think of your children. How would they feel if they put you in jail for something that you did or give you the death penalty? Think about that. Think about those kids that are going through this. Children experience toxic stress when they are suddenly separated from their parents, which detrimentally impacts their brain development. This type of stress heightens the risk of developing chronic mental health conditions, including depression and post-traumatic stress disorder, known as PTSD. Additionally, they may face increased susceptibility to physical conditions such as cancer, stroke, diabetes, and heart disease. Let me tell you, those parents that are getting deported, they may also need their medicines. They may also have kids that have cancer that they have to help them. And this is not something to be proud of doing. A 2010 study of immigration-related parental arrests, whether at home or work sites, found that the majority
of affected children exhibit at least 4 adverse behavioral changes within 6 months following a raid or arrest. Compared to the previous 6 months, these children were observed crying or expressing fear more frequently, alternating their eating or sleeping habits, or exhibiting increased anxiety, withdrawal, cleanliness, anger, or aggression. Moreover, a 2020 study revealed that the detention or deportation of a family member was associated with significantly high rates of suicidal thoughts, alcohol use, and aggression among Latinos adolescents in Atlanta, Georgia. Another study conducted in the same year examined the impact of war rates in Ohio, Texas, and Mississippi, and found that many children of those detained exhibit signs of PTSD, including difficulty sleeping, frequently crying, and hate and fear. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I will be reading based on the case of Jocelyn Rojo Carranza. On February 3rd of 2024, January 3rd, 2025, Jocelyn Rojo Carranza was an 11-year-old girl who fatally injured herself at home in Gainesville, Texas, a small city located just a few miles south of Texas-Oklahoma border. She was condemned to her injuries on February the 8th. According to her mother, Maribel Carranza, Jocelyn's death followed months to relentless taunting by her 6th grade classmates at Gainesville Intimate School, which serves grades 5 and 6 and is situated approximately 70 miles to the north of Dallas. In contrast to the family's account, the school is providing a different perspective on the final months of Jocelyn's short life in a summary of findings released on Tuesday and provided to Law and Crime by the Gainesville Independent School District, GISD. The superintendent confirms parts of the family's story, disputes others, and presents altogether new and shocking allegations. The 3-page document refers to Jocelyn as JRC and acknowledges that she was bullied by at least one other student. Gainesville ISD has concluded that student JRC was impacted by a bullying incident involving another student on the campus. The report states, I quote, "At the request of JRC's family, JISD refrained from making public statements while she was hospitalized. In the immediate days following her passing, honoring their wishes during this time, false statements circulated on social media regarding this district's silence. Now that the district investigation is complete, GISD is sharing the findings." Quote, goes in the quote. "The report does not directly dispute the claim that Jocelyn was bullied due to her family's immigration status or that the bully concluded threats of deportation by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. However, the accounts are somewhat ambiguous. According to the report, I quote, this matter first came to the administration's attention during a classroom's visit. Quote, on January 3rd, GISD states that, I quote, the whole class was speaking about ICE, and JRC had something she wanted to tell the principal, quote. Jocelyn Jen related to the principal that a student, quote, a student on the bus was making remarks regarding ICE and deportation to a group of Hispanics, quote. On January 31st, the student involved was disciplined per GISD. However, the school district clarified that the student's comments were, I quote, directed at a group of Hispanic students and not JRC, who was not seated with the group but was close enough to hear the remarks, quote. The district also confirmed that the student's comments about ICE and deportation on the bus were not a one-time occurrence. The day after Jocelyn harmed herself, discussions among students regarding bullying experienced her and her brother surfaced. The school district indicated that an internal investigation commenced the day after those discussions. On February 6th, ultimately, the school district concluded that Jocelyn had been bullied, although the report does not provide specific details of the form of this bullying. So now I ask for you to place your children, your grandchildren, in her shoes. Place yourself in her parents' shoes. Place your children, your grandchildren, in the bully's shoes. So now they're gonna take it home, who was bullying, who probably pretty much learned that role model of bullying from home.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lily. Today I'm going to be talking about the impact of immigration enforcement on educational outcomes. Children residing in communities that partner with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, or are the focus of ICE raids experience detrimental educational outcomes. Communities with local law enforcement agencies that opt to cooperate with ICE by entering into 287G agreements experience a significant displacement of Hispanic students. As families choose to relocate or avoid moving into these areas, a study conducted by Stanford University analyzed the effect of 287G agreements on public school enrollment and found that between 2005 and 2010, the number of Hispanic students in these communities decreased by nearly 10% within 2 years. Large-scale raids conducted by ICE can negatively impact school attendance for students who have friends or family members affected by such events. For example, after a massive raid in eastern Tennessee in April 2018, more than 500 students were absent from school the following day. Educators surveyed in 2017 and 2018 reported several concerns related to immigration enforcement, including increased student absences, declining academic performance, and reduced parental involvement. Notably, 84% of educators indicated that students from immigrated families expressed concern about enforcement while at school. Furthermore, a 2020 study examined the educational outcomes of Latino students in school districts located in communities with high rates of deportation. The study revealed that the number of deportations occurring in the large community was correlated with widening gaps in math achievements and chronic absenteeism in Latino students. Thank you for your time.
Elise Aguilar.
The impact of parental detention or deportation on children's welfare. Children may end up in the child welfare system following the detention or deportation of a parent. Parents, regardless of their immigration status, have a constitutional right to custody of their children unless they are deemed unfit. While the child welfare system generally acknowledges that it is in a child's best interest to remain with a parent or a family member, immigration enforcement can negatively affect parental rights and consequently a child's well-being. For instance, the lack of coordination between agencies has historically resulted in prolonged family separations and even the termination of parental rights when a parent is detained or deported. To mitigate the unnecessary disruption of parental rights for parents or legal guardians of minor children, ICE issued its Parental Interest Directive in 2013. This directive was replaced in 2017 by the Detained Parents Directive, which eliminated various aspects of the 2013 directive, including guidance on the use of prosecutorial discretion in cases involving children and references to parental rights. In 2017, directive instructs ICE agents to remain cognizant of impact enforcement actions may have on lawful permanent resident LRP or U.S. citizen children. According to the 2017 Detained Parents Directive, when LRP or U.S. citizen minor children are encountered during immigration enforcement, ICE agents should generally accommodate the parent or legal guardian's efforts to arrange childcare before contacting legal child welfare or law enforcement to temporarily temporary custody of the children. If the parent is unable to arrange childcare or custody prior to their detention or deportation, the child may be taken by the state's Child Protective Services (CPS) for placement in case management. Typically, the child is placed in emergency shelter, group home, or with a relative, friend, or stranger in a foster home while custody determinations are made in family court. A national study estimates that approximately 5,000 children in foster care had a detained or deported parent. Furthermore, children in foster care in counties with 287G agreements were found to be 29% more likely to have detained or deported parents compared to those in non-287G counties studied in 2011.
Good evening, my name is Nayeli Mendez, and I'm going to be talking about the economic implication of parental detention or deportation on children. The detention or deportation of a parent or other household member puts children at significant risk of economic instability. Such actions have substantial short and long-term financial implications. U.S. citizen children, along with any remaining family members, can face severe economic disadvantages following the removal of a primary provider. In general, increases in immigration enforcement have been correlated with higher poverty rates among U.S. citizen children whose parents are likely undocumented. A study examining immigration enforcement in 6 U.S. locations between 2006 and 2009 found that families lost 40 to 90% of their income, an average loss of 70%. Within 6 months of a parent's immigration-related arrest, detention, or deportation. The ability to afford housing can become increasingly precarious following a provider's deportation, leading to potential loss of a family's home and more frequent relocations. A 2016 study investigating the relationship between immigration enforcement and housing foreclosures found that deportations exacerbate foreclosure rates among Latinos by removing income earners from owner-occupied households. Furthermore, the research revealed that counties with 287G agreements authorizing collaboration between local police and ICE had substantially higher foreclosure rates among Latino families. An analysis of 2018 census data indicated that when households lose the income of an undocumented family member, the family overall income can decline by as much as 45%. It is estimated that 908,891 households with at least one U.S. citizen child would fall below the poverty line if the undocumented breadwinners in those families were deported. So overall, it will cost us taxpayers more tax money because these families will begin to ask for government assistance. Children whose parents get deported will go into the foster system and will take even more of our tax money. If you really are a Christian, I pray you will think about the U.S. citizen children and not so much about those illegal parents. And I hope you are also losing sleep thinking about them, because these children are bound to get lost in the system. Thank you, gentlemen.
Hello, my name is Emily Aguirre, and today I'll be speaking about limited mechanisms to safeguard parental rights of detained or deported parents. There are limited mechanisms to safeguard the parental rights of parents who are detained or deported. All parents have the right to receive notification of custody proceedings affecting their children, attend such proceedings, and obtain copies of related court documents. However, there are few enforceable and permanent policies in place to protect these rights for parents who are detained or deported. Federal law mandates the termination of parental rights if a child has been out of their parents' custody for 15 of the past 22 months. While policies and procedures vary by state, Child Protective Services generally implements a reunification plan that requires a parent to maintain regular contact with the child and participate in family court hearings. Detained or deported parents have historically faced significant barriers in meeting these requirements. Parents may request release from detention to care for their children while undergoing immigration proceedings. However, ICE no longer provides its personnel with guidance or exercising discretion in such cases involving a child. The 2017 directive generally instructs agents to facilitate regular visitation for detained parents and their minor children. Though it does not emphasize in-person visitation or other visitation through video or teleconferencing, ICE personnel are also directed to arrange for a detained parent's participation in custody proceedings when required by a court. Significant issues persist for a detained parent who may be navigating both immigration and custody proceedings. Since ICE is not required from CPS to inform a parent whereabouts, CPS may face difficulty in locating and properly notifying a detained parent. Meanwhile, family courts and caseworkers may not fully understand why a parent's detained and unable to participate in proceedings. Additionally, ICE officials may underestimate the impact that the enforcement actions have on U.S. citizen children who are likely to be left behind.
Good evening. Before I start off my sentiment, I'd just like to thank these ladies right here. God, what amazing work you're all doing, and the change that's happening in this community is truly beautiful. I'd like to say this. There's individuals in this community who wanted to speak as well at these women, but they were in a sense of fear. Fear is a common word that we've heard throughout the midst of this whole thing, and it's truly disheartening. Because freedom of speech is one thing that this country prides itself in, but members of this community can't even take part of that freedom. But I digress. Even though most of us understand the outcome of tonight, remember this. We, the people of this amazing county, have more power than these councilmen and amateur politicians sitting in front of us. To my business owners, highly overlooking individuals with diverse backgrounds and with stellar resumes that truly need a chance and deserve a chance. And to my individuals who are attorneys of law or have ample information about immigration law, I encourage you to take the time and educate a family who truly needs your help. To everyone else, I encourage you to spark a conversation with someone with a different political background than you and try to find common ground. At the end of the day, we are neighbors. And just because we have differences does not mean the sounds of equality and love cannot ring within the streets of our community. And to the individuals in this audience who feel a sense of happiness and entitlement when it comes to 287G and the DEI ordinance, I have this to say. You dare to call yourselves Christians. You really do. I can't believe it. How can you sleep at night when things such as 287G is the cause of a little girl killing herself? How do you feel about women, children, fathers of this very community who are both citizens and undocumented are scared and worried for their future? How do you feel about the young black man or young person of any minority background feeling he's not enough in today's climate or society because of the hate and tyranny that we've been hearing? Take the time and realize other perspectives and get off your high, mighty horse. There is one thing we can do. We cannot feel discouraged. Because there's an old saying I was taught. The battle might be won, but the war is not over. Look around. Our community is getting stronger. Do you know why? The reason is because love and true Christian values will be more powerful than hate and tyranny. And we will not stand for political propaganda, misinformation, and misrepresentation of what our county values stand for. Am I right? Yes. I'm right, okay. Well, God bless you all. And remember, vote Devin Clay for County Council to District 3. Thank you.
Lloyd McCauley.
Thank you, sirs. My name is DeVoy McCauley. I was born here in 1947 in Takena Crossroads when Seneca was mostly dirt. But I guess I'm here to vent more than anything. I think about the Englanders when they came into Plymouth Rock, and the natives there treated them with respect. They took them, showed them how to grow corn and how to live on the land, and how were they thanked. They were pushed on the reservations, and that wasn't enough. They swept all the way across America, the Englanders, and us too, because we had buffalo soldiers. But we went across the land, destroying a nation. They pushed the people out west on the reservations because they were looking for a better life. They eased on into California. They did all they could do. But when the Indians fought back, they were called savages. We went down to Texas, the Alamo. The Texans came from, most of them weren't even from Texas, but they came there to fight, to keep slavery and the Mexican population, keep their civil rights down. I lived in San Antonio for 35 years. They're good people. They're hardworking people. They're smart people. I learned a lot from them. And I hate to see what's going on. I hate seeing what's going on with them, especially in this time. And we need to find a way, a common way, besides having ICE prepared to kick their doors in. And I've seen it in San Antonio all too many times. Doors being kicked in, people having to run away from the city police. And if we start that here, they're gonna be doing the same thing right here. But if they rise up and fight, because they're getting angry, like these young people right here, they're getting angry because they see what's going on. We keep letting this president take away the little small parts of our government. He already said he's gonna be, we won't have to vote anymore. So if we keep letting little pieces of our government get chipped away, he's gonna end up in complete control. And there will be nothing nobody can do about it. Thank you.
All right, now we move to council member comments. Any council members like to speak? I'd like to address one thing. Mr. Arvey, the state law, I know this has been an issue with this pond. The state law not regulate, say you have to control the water runoff on your property?
Yeah, and I would like to follow up with Mr. Jack afterwards, just to see what DHEC has turned into DES, and through that transition, perhaps it's something's got kind of shifted through.
Okay.
They aren't always quickest to respond, but I'll check up with them afterwards.
Okay, here. Mr. Root will talk with you afterwards.
I've got Mr. Arb's telephone number just in case you need this one. He doesn't talk on the phone, but his wife does.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, I move to, public hearing. We have one public hearing for ordinance 2025-05. An ordinance to prohibit the use of county funds for diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives to ensure fairness and equality under the law. Before we open up public hearing, I'd like to remind everybody, as Ms. Brock stated earlier, this is for this ordinance only, so please stay specific to it.
Tony Adams.
Tony Adams, and I appreciate your time tonight. It's certainly been interesting listening to and watching the speakers during the last two county council meetings as they made their comments about the DEI ordinance. The age spread of the speakers caught my attention. There have been several speakers in my age group
who should remember the 1960s, which were very significant times during the history of our country. The Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act were passed by Congress in 1964 and 1965. Not long after the Civil Rights Act, President Johnson issued an executive order that formed the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission that addressed discrimination in the workplace. Since that time, action has been taken to ensure equal opportunity in banking, housing, and other factors in our country. Equal opportunity is truly available for all citizens and legal immigrants of our country, with the only limitation being an individual's personal ability and initiative. There are thousands of examples of people of all races, nationality, and sex becoming very successful after coming from humble beginnings in our country. They utilize the opportunity provided to them in our great nation. When I first started hearing about DEI mentioned, I researched it and came to the conclusion that it was totally unnecessary and was turning back the clock on progress in our country over past decades. Even more disturbing was that DEI appeared to have its roots in Marxist ideology, which promotes division between classes and other groups. Karl Marx wrote his Communist Manifesto in 1848. Today we have literature like Project 1619 that dredges up divisionary racial issues all the way back to the beginning of our country and ignores the progress and opportunity available in our country today. During the last two council meetings, I have seen speakers promoting division, either knowingly or unknowingly, with examples being comments about council being made up of old white men being a prime example. Division between age groups, race, and sex all rolled into one statement. There's also been division promoted between immigrants and other county residents, including legal immigrants, who are an important demographic group in Oconee that adds value to our county in many ways. There's also been division promoted between law enforcement and our immigrant community in Oconee. Marxism thrives on division. And like I say, Oconee County is just a small example of what happens all across our country. In closing, I want to digress back to our nation's history. Abraham Lincoln said if our country was ever defeated, it would be from within. Not too many years after World War II, our enemies said they would destroy us from within by feeding us small doses of socialism, which is just a light version of Marxist communism. As I look back at what has happened in our country during my lifetime, I often ask myself, what are we seeing today? Is our enemies continuing efforts to destroy our country from within? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Perry Smith?
Council, Mr. Chairman. Perry Smith, again, I am the president of the Oconee County Conservatives. DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives are widely implemented across organizations, educational institutions, and government bodies to foster a more inclusive and diverse environment. While the intentions behind DEI policies, such as promoting fairness and representation, may seem noble, there are several reasons why these practices can be problematic. This message will outline the key issues with DEI, particularly its impact on meritocracy, social division, and unintended consequences. One of the main arguments against DEI is that it undermines merit-based systems and efforts to increase representation of certain groups. DEI initiatives may prioritize diversity over qualifications, skills, and experience. By focusing on demographic characteristics such as race, gender, or ethnicity, rather than an individual's ability or contributions, DEI can diminish the value of merit in hiring and promotion decisions. This can lead to the selection of individuals based on factors unrelated to job performance. Ultimately comprising organizational efficiency and lowering standards. Standards such as outbursts in a setting like this. While DEI policies aim to foster inclusion, they often unintentionally create division, like we see in today, right now. Emphasizing differences among individuals based on race, gender, or other identity factors instead of encouraging people to come together. DEI can perpetuate identity politics, making people more focused on their group identity rather than their shared humanity. This can lead to heightened tensions, resentment, and polarization within organizations or societies. Rather than uniting people based on common goals, DEI may inadvertently divide them into categories of us versus them, as we are now. Another problem with DEI initiatives is that they often have unintended negative consequences. For example, the implementation of quotas or affirmative action policies can lead to resentment from individuals who feel they were overlooked for opportunities for their demographic characteristics. In some cases, these policies can even result in reverse discrimination, where individuals from groups are unfairly disadvantaged. Additionally, DEI programs can create a culture of dependency, where individuals feel entitled to special treatment or accommodations, rather than striving for self-improvement or taking personal responsibility for their success. Hey, just shut up. While DEI initiatives may be well-meaning, they often lead to negative outcomes such as undermining meritocracy, fostering division, and creating unintended consequences. Rather than focusing on demographic characteristics, societies and organizations should prioritize individual ability, fairness, and unity, ensuring that everyone has equal opportunities based on their qualifications and contributions, not their identity. I support the removal of DEI in this county.
I support the move to have.
We should put hard work and dedication above all. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I could, just as a point of order,
Point of orders, yes, sir.
we have on the books a law that has a penalty as a misdemeanor. If you're, and this is the reason that the chairman asked for the no clapping afterwards, it will tend to maybe silence another side of the aisle, another voice. So we try to keep it just as a mellow, forward-moving meeting. But it is prohibited to utter loud, obscene, profane, threatening, disruptive, or abusive language, or engage in any disorderly or disruptive conduct that impedes or disrupts a meeting. Violating those is a misdemeanor, so we don't want anyone to get escorted out of here. No troubles, right? Also, it's prohibited to engage in partisan political activity. I've seen a couple of those already too, so just be mindful of those. This can be signs, this can be hashtags, this can be promoting someone self for office. That's all I have to say. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Root.
Thank you again. My name is Linnell Heck. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you again. I wanted to talk about the DEI concerns. I'm just going to go through really quickly. I know we're kind of long tonight. First, we keep hearing that there is no DEI policy being implemented in Oconee County when that is actually not factual. The policy was renamed and repurposed, so that's why it didn't show up in the most recent FOIA, the Freedom of Information request. It did exist, and it was implemented. We actually had a full-time DEI position with the Oconee County Sheriff's Office. This was in response to all the national attention garnered by the George Floyd event. I believe Ms. Brock mentioned this a couple of meetings ago, but people keep repeating the falsehood that DEI has not existed in Oconee County, and it has. In 2021, at least one of our elementary schools implemented DEI training to their staff. The city of Seneca also implemented mandatory DEI training for city employees. One of the concerns that I have may not be popular, but DEI protects the right of transgender individuals to use a restroom that aligns with their gender identity. And whether this has occurred in Oconee County is a moot point, but again, this measure is a preemptive strike to present it. Emphasizing the differences in identity, and I think someone else kind of used this verbiage, and I agree with it, but it has the potential to foster division and resentment. It causes people to question whether someone was hired to fill a quota instead of their hard work and merit. I know as an employee, if I'm promoted or recognized for something, I personally want to know that it was for what I actually have accomplished and what I have worked hard for, and not because I'm a female. Something I started to say in an earlier address, I'm going to say it again, but sometimes the loudest voices and sometimes the most intimidating and even the most disrespectful. I know your requests keep getting ignored. Some people are being respectful of that. Some people are consistently not just tonight, but in other meetings. But those voices do not necessarily translate to be the right voices. I keep hearing and seeing the same people repeating that the council does not vote or represent the way the majority of the people that have spoken at these meetings feels, and that's absolutely not an accurate statement. The majority of Oconee County residents voted for you to do exactly what you were trying to do. We had one of the highest voting participation rates of the count for the primaries. It was proven again in the general elections. So, again, thank y'all for being strong. Thank you for doing what your constituents want you to do.
Valerie McCarthy.
Good evening. My name is Valerie McCarthy. Thank you for allowing me to address this council tonight. Let me start by saying that I believe in fairness. I believe in justice. I believe that every person, no matter their background, should be treated with dignity, respect, and equal opportunity. I believe that is the foundation of true diversity, equity, and inclusion. Unfortunately, what DEI has become today is not about fairness. As I said at a previous meeting, it's about control. It's about deciding who gets ahead and who gets left behind based on identity rather than individual merit. It's about deciding which voices get heard and which ones are silenced. And worst of all, it justifies discrimination as long as it's against the right people. But discrimination is wrong no matter who it's against. You cannot fight racism by promoting a different kind of racism. You cannot claim to unite people while pushing policies that divide them. That is not justice, that is not equality, and that is not what this country stands for. Some will say that the only reason people oppose DEI is because of implicit bias, that we're blinded by subconscious prejudices. Let me be very clear. Disagreement is not discrimination. Pushing back against flawed policies does not make someone biased. It makes them informed. If implicit bias were the real problem, then why does DEI only assume bias exists in one direction? Why does it always assume that certain people are naturally privileged and others are naturally oppressed, without looking at individuals and their real life experiences? Again, that is not justice. It's a prejudgment of people based on race, which is the very definition of racism. And to those saying we haven't spent any money on DEI, so why does it matter? I think the facts have been discussed, but I'll say them again. The Oconee County Sheriff's Office created a DEI position after the George Floyd incident with a full salary funded by the county council. That position was not eliminated. It was renamed and repurposed just last year. 2021, James M. Brown Elementary implemented DEI-style training for its staff. That's why Mr. Smith sued the school district and was able to obtain the training materials. And the city of Seneca just recently made DEI training mandatory for its employees. So this isn't just a big city problem. It's not something we can ignore and hope it just goes away. It is already here, and that's why this ordinance is necessary, to ensure that these divisive policies don't take root in our county government. And let me be absolutely clear. Again, we are not against diversity. We are not against equity. We are not against inclusion. We believe in those values when they are applied fairly and without bias. But what we are against are the policies that twist these words into tools of division, policies that determine a person's worth or opportunity based on race, gender, or identity. That is not justice. As a Christian, I reject racism in every form. I also reject false solutions that create more division instead of healing wounds. Leviticus 19:15 says, "Do not pervert justice. Do not show partiality to the poor or favoritism to the great, but judge your neighbor fairly." That is God's standard. One law, one set of rules for everyone. Proverbs 20:23 reminds us, "The Lord detests differing weights, and dishonest scales do not please him." Policies that tip the scales in one direction or another based on identity go against what is right. Fairness is not selective. And for those who say DEI is about inclusion, let me ask you, why does inclusion now mean exclusion? Why does diversity mean silencing certain voices? Why does equity mean treating people differently based on the color of their skin? The Bible tells us in Galatians 3:28, "There is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male and female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus." True unity is not found in government programs. It is found in treating each other as equals, because that is how God sees us. I am tired of being told that standing for true equality somehow makes me the problem. I will not be silent while our children are taught to judge one another based on race. I will not accept policies that punish some and reward others based on identity alone. We either believe in fairness for everyone, or we believe in fairness for no one. There is no in-between. So let's stand together, not just for labels, not for politics, but for truth, for justice, and for real unity, because that is what we owe the next generation. Thank you, and may God bless this county.
Curtis White.
Thank you, and council, county council, I appreciate the opportunity to speak. And I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the NAACP. And as I listen to the comments and whatnot, it's obvious that there is a gap in what is and what isn't, which has always been. I wish I had time to decipher everything that's been said tonight, but I don't. So I will get back to what I really want to say tonight in reference to the council and DEI. We talk about DEI positions and the money that has been or was not spent, or whatever the case may be. But the part that really gets me is, even with the DEI, is this not the person that is most qualified? Is it always the person that's less qualified but has other things that people are looking at? We tend to get things twisted sometimes. And I wish that at some point, those of us that agree or disagree can get together and discuss it without getting angry at each other. This has become, it's going to become a problem because when we describe people, we look at the physicality. White male, black male, African American, whatever the case may be. Those are the kind of things we look at, and I'm going, wait a minute, we don't know each other, and that's a problem. But anyway, let me get to what I really wanted to say tonight. Again, my purpose is to speak on behalf of the NAACP of Coney County and its membership. We have been on the battlefield, and we're a nonpartisan organization since 1909, working on behalf of all citizens and justices. What are the safeguards to ensure that the people making the decisions are going to do exactly what we just talked about? They're going to make the right decision based on the merit and the professionalism and the things that people bring to the table, rather than saying, oh, that's a position for this, that, or another. Quotas have been gone for a long time. This government, this nation, used quotas way back when. And now it's such a taboo that we don't even want to even talk about that. We've spoken before against the council considering a vote on banning county funds being spent on DE&I initiatives. One, because based on what we understood and knew, there were none in the county at that time. But yet we talk about creating a level playing field. And when I hear that, I ask the question, about what year was that? When there was a level playing field for everybody in this nation? Was it in the 60s or 70s, 80s or 90s? I don't know. Maybe somebody in the room can tell me. But DEI really focuses on just giving people an opportunity to be involved in the conversation. If it's not DE&I that handles or will concentrate on getting the right things done at the right time, then what? What are the safeguards to ensuring equity, fairness, and guarding against discrimination? Oh, I've been told we have laws on the books that say that, we guard against discrimination. Well, let's see how that works out. What if we were to ask some of the family members of the Charleston Nine? What if we were to talk to the family members of Walter Scott? What about Ahmaud Arbery, who was ambushed while simply out jogging? I'd love to see how much light can be shed on the discrimination in the laws that are already on the books. Oh, I know. Maybe we can ask the young girl who was caught up in this sex trafficking thing, which involved an officer of the court. But yet, as I understand it, there's no jail time given for that. Those are the laws on the books that's protecting and supposed to be equal throughout this nation. Yeah, that's how that's how justice is dispensed with the laws on the books with no DEI oversight and or training. So if and when DEI is banned and receive no county funding, how then as we as citizens can trust that the right thing will be done at the time that it needs to be done right, when just injustices do appear? American colonists some time ago were fed up with taxation without representation. At this point, citizens may be fed up with county decisions without conversation. Before you voted the first time on this ordinance, how many of your constituents did you speak with to ensure you were representing the majority? Better yet, I hope and I do believe that you are representing the majority. When we think of county government, when we think of government, period, we'd like to think that those that are elected will serve the majority, which means that conversation needs to take place. And I implore upon all of you all, as you make your decisions, to make sure you talk to those that surround you and agree with you, even those that do not agree with you. That's true leadership. And then when you take it all and put it in the bag and shake it up and you pull it out, you're making the right decision based upon what people have told you and not your individualism ideas. I first joined service in 1979. And what I saw on January 6th absolutely appalled me. But yet each one of them were given a pardon. The laws on the books. the laws on book. Please, I know this is the third reading, and it's, in my opinion, probably going to pass it. And, again, that's okay. But make sure it's passing for the right reason, the fact that you've had conversation with people that are on the opposite side of the aisle. Not just because of sitting at the dinner table or the outings that you've had or whatever. Let's go into some of these other areas where you haven't been, that you represent, and make sure that you've had that conversation as well. Thank you for your time, for listening, and I hope we can find time to break bread in the near future and hear each other out. But in the end, let's keep Oconee County beautiful and great. Thank you.
First off, I want to say, I'm going to approach this from a different level. I'm going to try approaching it from not the emotional standpoint that we've heard for the last two meetings, but from the role of the governing officials and the role of the citizens should play. You know, we were truly blessed to be here tonight. That our founding fathers, through the guidance of our Lord, created such a document that is so unique. Especially at that time, there was no other document like it. For up until that time, all governments were created first. And then a document was created to grant the privileges to the individuals, the citizens. And it could be taken away at any time. The Magna Carta is a good example. But our founding fathers knew from history that they needed something different. So they created a document that actually allowed the existence of a governing body. And that governing body could only exist inside the parameters of the Constitution. Anything outside of that is considered usurped powers and are null and void. You know, in these times we need them, for we have had them multiple times since the founding. Because it's a wake-up call to the patriots that has fallen asleep. As Samuel Adams said it, the truth is, all might be free if they value freedom and defend it as they ought. We have got lazy. I do not envy you, representatives that are up here tonight, for you play a very important role. For history has told us, and our founding fathers knew this, that the emotions of men will betray themselves. As it does in their personal life, it will bring chaos into the public society. So they had to put a mechanism in to temper it. And that mechanism is our representatives. That's why they created a great republic. It allows their cries to go through the debate of the representatives, through the fire debate, and come out annealed into something that is confined within the Constitution. Or if it is not, then they are told, we do not have the power to enforce the actions that you're requesting of us, for our Constitution does not allow it. But that's why we're here tonight. Because our politicians have sold us out. Our politicians have misled the citizens, and I'll get to that in a minute. But the truth of the matter is, we need these times. For in these times, It truly separates the patriots from the politicians. For the patriots will honor their oath to preserve and protect the Constitution of the United States, even if it costs them the seat that they sit in today. For their love for country is far greater than their love of that social rung on the ladder. But the politician, he will cast aside that oath, for that oath is not true in his heart. The oath that he made to himself is all about greed. It's all about that social rung. That's his oath. And he would cower down and sacrifice the Constitution for political gain. These politicians are the ones that have corrupted our education system, corrupted our judicial systems, corrupted our legislative system, corrupted every body of government and some private entities through bribery. They have even come to the point, the things that they could not openly do, they create bureaus for and have the bureaucrats to create rules outside of the legislative branch. These politicians are why we're here tonight. So DEI. In this, I hope to go through the rules and authorities that y'all have. The history of DEI, the departments where DEI has been implemented, the citizens' role in DEI, and how Christians are instructed to deal with DEI. So it's very limited, y'all's role in enforcing usurped powers to enable DEI to take hold in the county. But instead, y'all have an obligation to the people to protect them from this unjust action. For our Declaration of Independence, it's almost as DEI has forgot, the supporters of DEI have forgot these words. For we hold these things to be true, that we be self-evident, that all men are created equal. The Constitution, Amendment 14. No state shall make or enforce any laws which shall abridge the privileges and immunities of the citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within the jurisdiction the equal protection of laws. Article 4, Section 2. The citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of the citizens. There's some more to it, but I'm not going to read it. We have to learn from history. If we do not, we're bound to repeat it. There's a few things we cannot do. We cannot change the nature of man. We cannot create a just action from an unjust one. We cannot end discrimination by discriminating. And you, as representatives, can not support an action that will discriminate. I want to thank you for being brave enough, for being true patriots, and take the heat of this. A lot of these members that are here tonight, these citizens of Oconee County, they will not be here at the next meeting. And that's why they do not know that the majority of potholes in South Carolina are state roads. But yet they blame the council. A lot of these individuals have failed to read the Constitution and understand it. A lot of these individuals holler with a loud cry that they want to be heard and represented, but they never show up. But they want to blame you. That burden is not on y'all's shoulders. It is on theirs. For they failed to do their civic duty. You have no authority to enforce this type of action. But you do have the obligation to protect the people from it. The history of DEI. Some say it started during the Civil Rights Movement. Others say it started before then. But I really think it started with Adam and Eve. For Eve felt that she was unjust of not having all the knowledge of God. So she did an unjust act to achieve it. Cain and Abel is another example. For Cain, he was not happy with the outcome of the sacrifice he had given. And his jealousy and greed brought him to slay Abel. For he was not equal. Aristotle stated, the worst form of inequality is to try to make unequal things equal. DEI goes that far back, at least. For Aristotle wrote of it. Montesquieu wrote of it. During the tribulations of France. For he knew too how you cannot be unjust to one group and just to another and not create a rub between the two. Alexander Hamilton, one of the founding fathers, was very concerned over fractions and groups and spoke about it. So DEI is nothing new. It has been around since the beginning of time. So I looked up DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, just to see what Wikipedia had to say about it. And like many great things that our politicians come up with, they put a snazzy name on it, something that really makes you want to get on board with it. And it's kind of like Nancy Pelosi had stated. You got to pass it before you know what's in it. Why did she state that? She was telling the truth. The reason she stated that is because it will be the bureaucrats that implement it. And in this, there was one sentence that really stuck out to me more than the others. And it's in consideration of a person's unique circumstances, adjust the treatment accordingly so the end result is equal. So where has DEI going? Many in here say it's just a theory. It's just to make people aware of their prejudices that they don't know of. But I can tell you that where it has been used and has been implemented, it has created a quota. Matter of fact, part of DEI criteria is quotas, gender quotas on boards. My question is, how do you achieve that now that there's so many different genders? See how DEI can run wild? The problem with DEI is that it is not constitutionally in line. The problem with DEI is that it cannot exist. The problem with DEI is that we have history where it was tried and it failed. Where is our history of DEI? I heard somebody speak earlier about slaves. I want you to think about this. That was DEI. And how was that DEI? For they treated one group with privileges while another did not have them. Think about that. We're asking for somebody to be treated, one citizen above the other, for them to have privileges while the other one's not. We're asking to reverse back to the things that we came from. It took us a century after the founding and the adoption of the Constitution before slavery was ended. And it was not ended because of anything other than the judicial system applying it to the Constitution. The person that said that it was lawful, no, it wasn't, for our Constitution then reached the same. It was the greed of man, the pride of man, the self-centeredness of man that allowed that to continue on. For it should ended the day that the Constitution was adopted. Another century and a half for women's suffrage. How did it end? Through our judicial system, where Lady Justice applied the law. For even though all laws that are written, some may be in conflict with the Constitution, they still have to go through the system to be proven as such. Because our Constitution is the law of the land. Our Constitution is what all laws get their power from. For without it, the government does not exist. Our civil rights movement would have never existed if we had adhered to our Constitution. But we failed to. And once again, our judicial system in this great country, this great republic, was used to help right the wrongs. But my question is tonight, we need to think about, and I'd like for the citizens to think about, if you implement this, which I'm hoping it's not, but if you was to implement this, how many centuries is it going to take to right the wrong? How many generations, future generations, are going to suffer at the hands of discrimination? For what happens when your group is no longer in the privileged, but instead are in the oppressed? What happens then? Will your cries be loud enough that people will stand up and take action? Or will they sit back and be quiet? That's why we need not to venture down this road. For what is to happen when all females with children are no longer in the preferred class? Or when brown-eyed, dark-haired people are no longer in the preferred class? And for those who don't know, I may be gray now, but I am brown hair and dark-eyed. What happens then? That's what we're not thought about, because we allow our emotions and our greed to drive us. There are three types of people that I feel that support DEI. They're the ones that have greed in their heart. DEI benefits them somehow, and they want that benefit. The other type are naive. They're ignorant to what they're really asking. They're probably very loving people, caring people that just want to help people out, but don't know how. And they catch on to the latest phrase and don't dig into it to see how it will harm. The third type are those people with malice in their hearts. Those who do not love America, do not love the United States nor this republic. They want to change it. And they will do everything they can to tear this republic apart. How should the citizens fight against this unjust treatment? Get to know your Constitution. Understand it. Read the Federalist Papers. Understand them. Read your state constitution. Understand it. Come to these meetings and understand what's going on at the local level, and be the loudest cry when somebody's rights are violated. For if you fail to, then your freedoms could be lost. Because I guarantee you now, as I stand here today, that if we all will stand and protect the Constitution will protect us all. And a failure to do so will erode at its core, and our freedoms will be sacrificed. I was going to talk on the Christians. I think Valerie covered a good bit of that. But a simple thing that Christians should remember is we should love everyone equally and the same. If you're not, you're showing lust and pride. Because as a Christian, we should not put the poor below or above the rich. We should all be equal in God's eyes. I want to say that I thank y'all for what y'all doing tonight. It's a hard decision. But your decision is to be a patriot, not a politician. You have to adhere to the Constitution. You cannot allow one group of citizens to be discriminated against by another. You swore oath to preserve and protect. And it's going to be the patriots that help rid us of these politicians who have brought the chaos and who have tried wrecking our government. God bless y'all. God bless Oconee County, this great state, and this great republic. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I close public hearing on ordinance 2025-05. Now we move forward to third reading of ordinance 2025-05. I've already read the caption, it's on the screen. I'm not gonna read it again. We have a motion.
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Motion second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, now we have second reading of final ordinances, ordinance 2025-06, and ordinance amending chapter 26 of the Oconee County Code of Ordinances with respect to the program to designate Oconee County scenic highways. Have a motion?
Second.
Second. Any discussion?
Yes, sir. Again, I can't vote for this for the simple reason that we have a state ordinance that gives us the guidelines to use, and I feel like the county is taking away some of our freedoms by adopting this, so I'll be a negative vote.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, we have no first readings. All right, we have first and final reading of the following resolutions. Resolution 2025-01, a resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of an amended intergovernmental agreement between Oconee County and the town of West Union for the provisions of a county magistrate to act as a municipal judge for the town of West Union and other matters related thereto.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, now we have council committee reports. We'll begin with Transportation Committee, Mr. Hart.
On February the 18th, 2025, the Transportation Committee met at approximately 4:30 that afternoon. On our agenda, the item was McAllister Road in West Union. Approximately a year before that, on February the 20th, 2024, at a meeting, we asked the property owners to give us a as-built plan of the portion of the road that they wanted the county to accept in their maintenance. Mr. Joey Lemons and David Hubbard presented their as-built plans to the committee. the as-built plan showed that there were several deficiencies that did not meet the county regulations. At that time, we decided to vote to have the administrators to help the people with these deficiencies by letting the road department tell them how to correct those. So at this time, I want to make a motion that we authorize Ms. Brock to let the road department help these homeowners correct the deficiencies they have in the as-built plan.
All right, we have a motion for Ms. Brock County staff to help the homeowners with the deficiencies on the road. We have a second? Second. What does that look like? What is the helping with it? Does that help them?
What is the deficiencies?
Well, what does it look like for the county to assist them with the deficiencies?
Oh, they're just gonna go out and say, hey, you need to widen this shoulder here, or you need.
Advisement.
Yeah, they're gonna just advise what can be done to get it within line of our, specs.
Okay.
So other than the advice, we won't spend any taxpayer money.
No, that's right. We're outside of the employees going out and looking at it.
Okay. All right, I have a motion and second. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor of Mr. Hart's motion?
What is 5-0?
I'd like to finish up, our next meeting, Transportation Committee will be May the 20th at, approximately 4:30 p.m. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Next, we have report from the Law Enforcement, Public Safety, Health, and Welfare Committee. Mr. Don Miles.
Thank you, Chairman. Law Enforcement, Public Safety, and Health and Welfare Committee meeting met on February the 18th of 2025. We met with Sheriff Crenshaw, and he provided us with a law enforcement update. Committee members, Sheriff Crenshaw and County Attorney David Root also discussed a need for local ordinances with respect to trespass, unauthorized camping, drug houses, loitering, and related public endangerment and public nuisance issues. And our next meeting will be held on Tuesday, May the 20th, 2025. That's all I've got, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Miles. We have board and commission appointments. Ms. Jennifer, do we have any last minute submissions, anything for building codes appeal?
No, sir.
Okay, we have no submissions for that. No executive session items, so need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Second, all in favor?